One of the most disheartening things that can happen as a high ticket dropshipper is having a supplier tell you no when you reach out to become an authorized dealer for them. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what to do if that happens. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. If you are new, subscribe for the most straightforward and objective high ticket dropshipping content that you will find on YouTube. So I've got a tiny channel here, but I feel like I put out some pretty decent content. So if you hit the like button, comment what you want me to talk about, and subscribe to my stuff, it really helps me out a lot, and it connects me with other people that are into e-commerce and high ticket dropshipping. So, what do you do if you reach out to a supplier? Maybe you are just getting your business off the ground, maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you have a somewhat established business. Regardless of the situation, there's that one brand, or maybe there's a couple of brands in your niche that you have always wanted to work with that are kind of like the marquee name brands in the space. And if you can get in the door with them, it would make a substantial difference in your product offering and the legitimacy of your business, et cetera, et cetera. And you reach out, you finally build up the guts, you get them on the phone, or you get them to respond over email, and they end up telling you no. And it's super disheartening. It's kind of a gut punch because it kind of levels back down your expectations just naturally, mentally, and emotionally as far as what results you could possibly get out of this. So why they tell you no is what I'll talk about first. It could be for a myriad of reasons. Uh, some companies, they might just not work with online only dealers, period. Now, obviously, if you're a company like, let's say you were Home Depot approaching them and all of a sudden Home Depot was only drop shipping. Well, they would probably still work with you because you're freaking Home Depot and everybody knows who you are. But if you're just Joe Schmo like you and me, and you've got a nice looking website, but no one's ever heard of you, they get hit up left and right by aspiring dealers like you and me all day long. And most of them don't end up panning out for them as far as actually providing revenue or providing business. Um, and that's not due to the nature of the business model. That's more due to the individuals and those individual businesses. Maybe they find a different product from a different brand that ends up working out better for them, so they focus their advertising efforts towards that. Uh, you have to keep in mind they're getting hit up left and right by people like you and me. But this is all ranges of experience and intelligence, and it's all walks of life that get into e-commerce here. Whether you're a PhD, whether you are a current student, whether you are a welder, um, the e-commerce is kind of the island of misfit toys, and so what that means for the actual outcome of financial success it's a bell curve. As far as the people that get really successful, the people that you know have average success, and the people that see nothing happen at all. So what that means for suppliers telling a dealer no, or an aspiring dealer no, is they get hit up left and right by people like you and me. Most of them don't pan out. And so they want to do their brick and mortar locations, their brick and mortar dealers, a favor by not watering down the market by having us be able to advertise online and not have actual skin in the game. Which kind of leads me to another reason why a supplier might say no to you. Some suppliers, well, it might not be a no, it might be you can work with us if you place a minimum order with us. And what that minimum order is depends on the company. It could be $5,000, it could be $20,000, it could be a certain amount of volume of product that you need to buy with them. It's kind of like an upfront investment, kind of like your fee to get into the club with them, because they want to see that you have some investment, some skin in the game with them. Again, they don't want to just work with this dealer that they never end up seeing any revenue from. They don't want to uh, just get nothing out of this. They want to see that you are committed to actually promoting their brand, and not just be willy nilly with who they hand out dealerships to. So that's another reason. Another reason could be they're currently not accepting new online dealers. And like that's just kind of the nature of it. They used to, you see different drop shipping sites advertising their stuff, but right now they're just not accepting new dealers, new brands. So no matter what the reason is, it can be kind of a gut punch, and it can really, it's kind of humbling. But you kind of have to go into this business model understanding that while it's not really like cold sales that you're doing, it's similar to it in that you have to be okay with being rejected. So then the big question is, what do you do if a supplier tells you no? Well, you kind of just have to go back to the drawing board for a while. You have to evaluate other suppliers in your space. But the biggest point that I want to make, if there's anything you take away from this video, is a no today doesn't necessarily mean it's a no tomorrow. So let's say you're brand new, you reach out to brand A tells you no. Okay, so you got to work with the cards that you have. And speaking from experience, and I'll use the pond and lake space, for example. There are really well-known brands in that space. As funny as that sounds, every niche kind of has its own little world where everybody knows like the brands and whatnot. Um, and funny enough, the brands that are a couple of them that are super well known in the pond and lake space are really hard to get into as online dealers. But the first brand that I ever got in the door with in the pond and lake space ended up being my best seller. So I did, 7 figures of revenue for this one brand. Meanwhile, these other brands were telling me no, that technically were better known in the space and like had more of a brand recognition. But it just so happened that this other brand that it's a much smaller company did a lot more business for me. And so the first point is you kind of never know which brand is actually going to drive business for you until you test the waters. You might be under the assumption, let's say you are in the, I'll just use the golf simulator space. I don't recommend the niche, but just for example, let's say you really want to get Skytrack or you really want to get Garmin as a supplier because it's a huge name brand. It would change everything for you. And there's a point to be made where it adds a ton of legitimacy to your business, and it automatically makes conversions for that brand easier. It does not necessarily mean it's going to be your best seller though. You might happen to carry a smaller brand that maybe not a lot of other competitors are running ads for, and it does really, really well for you. And so that's just kind of an example of like it in your mind, it might seem like this is the key to success here. But I wouldn't write off all of your other suppliers that you are able to get in the door with already. Okay, so getting back to the point, supplier tells you no. Okay, you got to deal with the cards that you have, build up your business over the next 6 to 12 months. And I'm just speaking from my own experience here. There's one particular supplier that comes to mind for me in my pond and lake business, huge commercial pond equipment, pond fountains and aerators, like huge pumps. So I'm talking $30,000 to $50,000 projects here, and they require like a project manager to be on site for installation. They're like huge 1,000-pound things. And I reached out to them like 6 months into my pond and lake business because I was doing, reasonable revenue. I was starting to climb up to that 6-figure mark. And I told them that. I reached out to their same sales manager multiple times, and he was like, we just don't work with online dealer. Like, looking at your product offering now, it looks like you mostly tailor or cater towards small residential projects, and that's just not what we serve. I'm like, okay. So I reached out multiple times over the course of the next year and a half, call it. And eventually I had enough data to give this guy the same sales manager that kept telling me no. And I said, look, half of my customer base is businesses and government agencies. So like public parks and literally just any property with a pond. Some of them are really big, some of them are small. And right now, the commercial projects, I can only offer up to like X amount. I can only offer so big of a project, but what I would really like to offer is what you provide. And so I can show you the customers that have literally purchased from me. I can show you purchase history here. And I, just to prove to you, like, this isn't just like a residential thing here. This isn't some mom and pop shop. Like, I'm working with real, B2B end users here, or B2G in the case of government agencies. And what I would really like to be able to do is offer your products to them, because right now I'm kind of capped at what I'm currently able to offer them. So I'm able to eat the cost of the project manager, being on site. I'm fully equipped to walk through, installation and specs with them once I learn your products. But I think I'd be able to do, or provide a lot of value for your business, because not a lot of people promote it in the online space, and that's where I would come in. And so that ended up turning into a yes. And again, it took a year and a half to get into this brand that told me no multiple times before. So the moral of the story is, a no today isn't necessarily a no tomorrow. The last point that I will make is that when it comes to choosing a niche, that has a huge influence over getting in the door with suppliers too. Now, I can speak directly to a few different niches, just because I used to offer a one-off service where I would get suppliers for people's businesses. Well, now I still do that for people that do my done for you service, but it's included in the package of, I will build your high ticket dropshipping business for you. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the description below. But I'll use golf simulators as an example, because I have direct experience getting suppliers in this space. It's a hyper competitive space. And the more hyper competitive, the more dealers are going to be reaching out to these brands to work with them. And so that just raises the likelihood that they're probably going to tell you no, or say that we don't work with online dealers anymore. Well, if you're using the principles that I use and I teach in my course, and that I use when I build people's businesses for them, again, the link is in the description below if you're interested. The principles that I go off of are low competition, and how I analyze this is comparing the ratio of search volume to keyword difficulty in SEMrush. And the overarching principle that I use with all of my niches is it need based? Is it a discretionary expense, or is it a required expense for a business or for a residence, to perform a job, perform a project? Is it something that is needed? And so using those principles, you end up in spaces where these suppliers aren't necessarily getting hit up left and right by aspiring dealers, because not as many people know about them. A ton of people know about golf simulators. Even more people know about fitness equipment. And so those suppliers, while a lot of them will probably just be like, yeah, go ahead, be a dealer for us, like they don't give any care, I don't think that's a good situation either, because it means they're just going to work with anybody. And so you're going to be competing with a ton of other people in that space. But if you're in a space where you call them, and it's almost uncommon to hear from an online only dealer, like that's a really, really good sign for you. Hope that is valuable information as far as what to do if you're told no by a supplier. Again, it's humbling, it's a gut punch, and it's super disheartening, especially if you're just getting started. But my biggest piece of advice is, deal with the other cards that you have, deal with the suppliers that you're able to get, and build a base so that when you go back to them a year from now, you have evidence to show them you can actually provide them value, and you know the space 100 times more than you did when you first approached them. So let me know in the comments what else you want me to talk about in these videos. It's always helpful to hear what's top of mind for you guys, whether you're a seasoned vet or just getting started. And if you haven't already, subscribed to the channel. And if you were serious about doing high ticket dropshipping, check out my link in the description below. Thanks, guys.